let's break down what I think we're going to see out of Justin Fields next on the Unbearable Sports Podcast.
I'm going to take the North and never give it back.
So that's a good pick. You get the corner. I got to go bold, right? I got to go bold for this.
Yeah, she's got some nice.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe out there on YouTube and rate the show 5 stars everywhere that you get your podcast. Happy Movember. We continue to raise money for the Movember charity. Link down below in the description if you want to donate. But I'll be donating a portion of what we make with this show over to that charity. So thank you so much for watching. But today, Justin Fields is going to be back. We are breaking down the Detroit Lions versus the Chicago Bears. The offense, the defense, the predictions, and also the injury report. So let's actually start out with that because the Bears injury report, lots of good news and a sprinkle of bad news throughout it. Kari Blasingame, Nate Davis, Justin Fields, Khalil Herbert, and Terrell Smith all don't have a designation, so they all hopefully should be back for the Chicago Bears come Sunday. But where it's a little bit questionable, right? Deonta Foreman limited throughout the week, so we'll see if he ends up playing. But if Khalil Herbert's all set to go, which it seems like he should be, being a full participant on Thursday and Friday, at least you kind of have that depth, that assurance that if Foreman is not back, then you at least have Herbert coming back. But the big question is going to be this linebacking group. The Detroit Lions are a very good rushing attack, and Tremaine Edmonds was limited on Friday and is questionable. Jack Sanborn did not participate on Friday, but was a full participant on Thursday, so he's questionable with a ankle/illness. And Noah Sewell, who I was hoping that we'd be able to see Sewell on Sewell fighting, but unfortunately, he is out and will not play. If none of these linebackers end up playing, you should probably see Dylan Cole kind of step in and be that backup linebacker for you. Still a veteran, a solid veteran, but I'd rather see a Jack Sanborn and a Edmonds kind of play in instead. But also, as for the Detroit Lions, Isaiah Buggs out, Jonah Jackson out, Melifonwu is questionable. So Jackson, their left guard, someone to definitely look out for, and Buggs, kind of a bigger guy on the interior, out. Not a huge loss, but a solid player overall. But let's talk about the biggest news for this game. There's a lot of big headlines, but we got to talk about Justin Fields being back because this Detroit defense is pretty good. 9th overall, according to Football Outsiders DVOA. This is going to be a test for Justin Fields, and especially when you look at their rushing attack, their run defense, 3rd best for yards per game with 79.1, and 6th best run defense with only 3.7 yards per carry. So, and from their passing attack, pretty middle of the road, allowing 231.6 passing yards a game. So Justin really has his work cut out. First game back already. A lot is going to be put on his shoulders to really kind of attack this passing attack because it's the weakest portion of this team. So he has to throw the ball, but also we've seen him get a lot of yards running the football himself. So it's going to be definitely something to watch out for. But Justin Fields, what should we expect out of him? And this is something that I really wanted to talk about because what happened last time that Justin Fields was out and had to come back in? We saw this with Trevor Siemian last year, and for those that are Unbearable Sports fans that have seen every show, you've heard me talk about this, where last year it seemed like good leaders do, they learn from anybody, including somebody that is worse than them. That's what the sign of a good leader is. Successful people say that you can learn something from anyone. Last year, we saw this with Justin Fields. Before he was out and Siemian started, 14% of his dropbacks he would target a running back. Siemian comes in, and versus the Jets, 24% of his passes went to a back. After that, Justin Fields, through 21% of his targets went to running backs. That shows, now someone could say, well, that was probably game plan. Actually, leading up to that, Justin was only throwing it to running backs at around 10% of his targets. So what you saw is Justin Fields saw what someone else was doing and learned from it. that to me shows tremendous leadership, tremendous student of the game. He was able to take some of that and really apply it to his game. And when you watch back the film, you see him actively trying to find running backs. So now what does that mean for him today? What did Tyson Bagent do well? Now, towards the tail end, not a whole lot, to be honest with you, but something that, in all seriousness, what Tyson Bagent did very well was getting the ball out. He was only sacked 3% of the time. Justin Fields was sacked 11% of the times, with the same offensive line. Tyson Bagent converted a pressure to a sack only 9% of the time, while Justin Fields around 23%. We know this. Justin Fields holds onto the ball too long. PFF's advanced stats, he was number 1 last year for holding onto the ball, and number 1 this year at 3.23 time to throw, while Tyson Bagent 2.9. So what I'm hoping is that Justin sees something like this, which I guarantee you he's probably looking at that going, I could probably use some of those pieces as part of my game. That's what type of a person he is. That's what good leaders do. That's what successful people do, is they learn from anybody. They don't go, undrafted person out of Shepherd. I can't learn anything from you. He's definitely going to be learning and seeing something like this because, as we know, as people with working professions, if someone comes into a similar job that you have and is doing the same job as you, there's a lot that you can take from them. And it's different when they're actively managing a project rather than just casually having conversations. It's different than just a normal practice that you see every day and actually seeing the live bullets flying and it succeeding and someone doing well. So I'm curious to see what Justin Fields is going to do. And does he end up speeding it up a little bit because he sees a Bagent doing that with some of these other, or are we going to see him kind of do what he's normally done because he has been that way since college, and I'm assuming also since high school. So I'm rooting for Justin Fields, though, too, because this might be the last that we see Justin Fields in a Bears uniform with these last handful of games that we have. There's a lot of rumors out there, and a lot of, when you just look at the writing on the wall, he needs to have a great end of the season to just show that, listen, I have unlimited potential. Keep giving me a shot. If you get a new regime, have me have a shot, right? But it does seem like the writing's on the wall. Justin Fields, let's see what he does. Let me know down below if you're watching what you think Justin Fields is going to do. Is he going to speed up and take a page from Tyson Bagent's playbook? Is that just wishful thinking? Let me know what you believe. But let's continue talking, because also, we have a quote-unquote healthy offensive line, and probably the biggest news is that Cody Whitehair has been benched. So Tevin Jenkins moves over to the left guard, Nate Davis back at the right guard, Lucas Patrick is still the center. So I think that, for one, Cody Whitehair has been a Chicago Bear forever and has done everything that this organization has asked of him. And I think it's sad that everyone is celebrating, but also at the same time, he didn't look great, but still, we still have Lucas Patrick as that center. We still need a center desperately. I hope that Cody Whitehair is getting snaps at center, and hopefully he can get that snap down so that we can trust him at that center position, because Lucas Patrick just ain't doing it for, I think, anybody out there overall. But this offensive line is going to have a pretty big test. Aleem McNeil is a pretty big guy in the middle for the Detroit defensive line. It can really stuff the run. That's a big reason why they have been so successful. But also Aiden Hutchinson, the second-year pro out of Michigan, their second overall pick last year. He's good. Ladies and gentlemen, he is good. He is PFF's seventh highest rated edge rusher with a 90.2. He looks very good. And everyone else on this defense, it's a solid defense. They play very well together. But when you're looking at really that front of the line, Hutchinson is going to be really kind of he's going against the Darnell Wright rookie. That will be a very interesting matchup that we need to be watching out for, because Darnell Wright, he's had his ups and downs, but still has had a good season for a rookie. How does he fare against a young up-and-comer? That is going to be a very interesting matchup that I am enticed to see. But also, too, I want to see Lucas Patrick not trip our other guards, because rewatching a lot of the tape, Patrick was always on the ground, and he's clearly the weak link on this offensive line. But the other piece that I really want to watch is Nate Davis. Nate Davis started to kind of get back into form and really look like the Nate Davis for the Tennessee Titans, which is not a bad guard. But he looked terrible, horrific against the Green Bay Packers, but has steadily gotten better. Now he's coming back off an injury. Hopefully he can show some of those flashes from the Titan days. But now let's talk about the next piece, the running backs. We should be fully healthy. We'll see if Deonta Foreman is going to be out. And I actually talked about this a little bit last week, thinking that Khalil Herbert was going to be back. And before I even go into that, let me know down below what you think. Who do you think is going to be the starting running back? How do you think they're going to set everything up? Because personally, I think that these running backs, I think that Khalil Herbert is going to be the lead guy. But I think that he's not going to be as hardcore the lead guy as we saw in the first half of the season. I think that he's going to be sharing the carries with Deonta Foreman, and I think ultimately the person that kind of gets his playing time stripped the most is Roschon Johnson. Roschon Johnson can pass protect. I think he's purely just going to be used as a third down guy, and I do think that it's going to be Deonta Foreman and Khalil Herbert shouldering the load. And also, too, if he's still limited and Deonta Foreman is not fully healthy because he's been limited all week, the Bears could just opt to say, you know what, Herbert, you're in, and we're going to roll with the running backs that we had before you just to see how Khalil does back from injury. It's going to be interesting to see good running attack. It's a good run defense against the Bears' good running attack. Let's see who ends up bending. But now we got to talk about X factors, and you already know the drill. Let me know your X factor on offense that you think is going to turn the tide for this unit, because I talked a lot about Justin Fields. I have not talked much about these wide receivers, and the wide receivers will have a pretty interesting matchup. Brian Branch, their rookie, very good slot defender, and he doesn't really play more that deep safety. That's when Kirby Joseph and a Walker kind of are those deep safeties for them. But Branch has been a very good box safety and slot corner. To me, the person that I'm looking for as the X factor, I want to give this to Justin Fields just because how does he look coming off of the injury? How does he perform better than Tyson Bagent? When people were clamoring for Tyson Bagent, how does he show and prove people wrong? And also, like we said, this is kind of this might be the final march with the Chicago Bears. To me, the person, though, that is the X factor is DJ Moore. It's clearly DJ Moore, because if you can get the ball in his hands, him going against Cameron Sutton at the outside corner position, him going against a Jerry Jacobs on the outside. These are people, Jerry Jacobs really had to step up, and he's not been terrible, but that's where you can exploit that mismatch on the outside. DJ Moore is better than both of those players, and hopefully Justin Fields can take advantage of that and feed it to DJ Moore, and DJ then gives you those big plays against this good this good defense. So kind of simple, but that is my X factor. Otherwise, my second was going to be Justin Fields, because we do need him in that passing game. But that's the offense. And also, just a little reminder for those that are still watching out there, make sure to rate the show 5 stars out there on Apple Podcasts, because we are giving away a Darnell Wright jersey. Once we reach 58 5-star reviews out there on Apple Podcasts, we will announce it live on the show. So let's continue. Let's talk about this Chicago Bears defense, shall we? Because David Montgomery is back. He is returning against his former team, and you better believe he's going to have a vengeance. I'm glad that the Bears didn't re-sign him, because you don't pay running backs. You don't need to pay running backs. But, man, we might be the number one rush defense for yards per carry, but I think that David Montgomery is going to do everything in his power to show Ryan Poles that he should have spent money on him. So this year, David Montgomery averages 4.7 yards a carry. He has 501 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs, who is also the backup running back, has averaged 5.3 yards a carry, 476 yards on the season. But also, too, Jared Goff has not been a slouch this year. 2,507 passing yards, which is 278.6 per game, 14 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and 15 sacks. Really, this offense has been cooking. This offense has been humming. And also another fun stat, they're the 4th overall Football Outsiders DVOA offense, and also David Montgomery is number 4 in broken tackles attempts per broken tackle at 8.8, and Jahmyr Gibbs is number 5 at 9 attempts per broken tackle. What this means, they break tackles. You have to wrap up. You have to bring them down, and we all know what David Montgomery does. We all know that he's always number 1 in broken tackles. That's what he does, right? That's what he really continues to do even out there with Detroit. He breaks tackles. The Bears do need to wrap up. And I think that this is a great test for the Chicago Bears defense, because when you look at the Bears defense, we've gone up against a lot of cupcakes recently. And I think this is a good test to say, all right, we only allowed 6 points on defense last week. How good is this defense actually? What can Montez Sweat do as he goes against a Sewell, one of the best right tackles in the league? And according to PFF, the 2nd highest graded tackle in all of the NFL. This is a very good offensive line. The Bears are really going to be tested by this, because when you have an offensive line as good as theirs, it makes running very easy. Taylor Decker, one of the best left tackles in the league. Then you look at Frank Ragnow, arguably the best center in the league next to Kelsey, and Glasgow was someone that they had to bring in when Vaitai went down, but has been a good right guard for them. Like we said, their left guard, Jonah Jackson, will not be playing, so there might be a weakness in that line right at that one individual position, but for the rest, it's basically loaded with people playing at an all-pro level. That's where the running backs are able to be so successful, and that's where, to me, it's going to be a key piece that the Bears can stop this rushing attack and try and stop them and really just wrap up, because they love to break tackles. And next piece and final piece with this defense versus this offense, is this the Ben Johnson resume builder game? We talked about this with Eric Bieniemy. This offense is good, right? Ben Johnson, a lot of people's top choice for a head coach candidate. Ben Johnson might be seeing this as a resume builder. If you have a great game and the offense absolutely cooks, Ryan Poles is up there going, I want to have that guy. He just cooked the Matt Eberflus defense, right? Or he gets stuffed by Matt Eberflus. That's going to be a big test. Matt Eberflus needs to bring out all the cards and try and stop this super high-powered offense. And a lot of it has to do with this offensive line. This offensive line keeps Jared Goff clean. And when Jared Goff is clean, he's a good quarterback. And right now, PFF's number 1 graded quarterback in all of the NFL. And you look around, Amon-Ra St. Brown, EQ's brother, 88.5 grade from PFF, which is the 7th highest receiving grade. Josh Reynolds has been a big, deep threat for them. And also the other wide receiver position always shifts, but Jamison Williams, the speedster out of Alabama, is still out there. You just have to watch out for him. Hasn't had a great season, but just need to watch out for that speed. So I'm looking at these corners. Going, okay, Kyler Gordon, the 34th ranked corner out there, coming back, really has transformed this defense. Going against most likely Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be a huge matchup. And then you have Jalen Johnson locking down who's ever on the outside. Safeties need to play better. Eddie Jackson, Jaquan Brisker, especially Brisker in the coverage department, has not looked too great, but they really need to be all together and really focused when they're going against Ben Johnson, because I don't think that you're going to get much pressure on Jared Goff. It's going to be about coverage and blitzing, because if you can get in Jared Goff's face, which is going to be very difficult, if you can get in his face, you're going to have him speed up, and that's how you can get him to create some mistakes. And the person we have not talked much about, Sam Laporta, rookie tight end out of Iowa. He is no slouch. He is not the typical rookie tight end where he's not performing well. He is PFF's 9th overall tight end. And a lot of people might know him because of him being kind of this fantasy football marvel that you were able to get super, super late down draft boards. But overall, this offense is good. This is going to be a test for this defense. So let's talk about the X factor. Let me know who your X factor on defense is down below, because I got to think about this. I think when I look at the defense, when I look at the offense, to me, the biggest person out there, if he ends up playing, I'll probably give 2 X factors, because if this guy ends up playing, he's my X factor, and that's Jack Sanborn, because TJ Edwards has 1 million tackles this year, but Jack Sanborn, he can miss some tackles every now and again. He can have a really good game with making tackles, everything that comes his way, but with some shiftier players, like David Montgomery, might cause him some difficulties trying to tackle. So I think Sanborn, making sure he wraps up, making sure he makes the play, that is my big X factor, because if we can stop the run with these linebackers, I think that changes how this game performs, because now they have to pass it. This game, this Lions team is about establishing the run and then passing it through the air. When they're not able to get that run game going, the offense does kind of struggle. But just as my backup X factor, it is going to be Jaquan Brisker for similar situations with Jack Sanborn. Because if Sanborn doesn't play and Edmonds doesn't play, we're going to be really, really low on linebackers. And you need the bigger Jaquan Brisker at that safety position to come in and really help these linebackers out making these tackles. Now, he hasn't been great in coverage, but he has been good in run defense. PFF has given him the 7th highest run defense grade for safeties, but one of the worst, the 77th ranked coverage grade, and the tape backs that up. So that's where Brisker is my backup X factor for this game. But let's go over to the prediction, shall we? Ken, you already know the drill too. Let me know your predictions down below. Give me your predictions. Who do you think's going to win? And also, one big, bold prediction, right? We're talking big. We're talking bold. What do you think is going to happen during this game? So, what do I think? When I look at this team, and I'm just going to pull up some of their recent games. When you look at the games, 41 points against the Chargers, 26 against the Raiders, 6 against the Ravens, getting absolutely stomped, 20 against the Bucks, 42 against the Panthers, 34 against the Packers. This is an offense that can do well. And I don't think that the Bears are going to be able to win this game. I think it's going to be like a 27, I'll say 27-17 game. I think ultimately the Lions end up winning. I think that this is a very, very good team, very well coached. And what would take the Bears to win? I think what would make the Bears win is Justin Fields coming out and just freaking balling and just dominating, because he can do this. We've seen him dominate the Lions, and the Lions have gotten better. I think Justin Fields needs a big game in order to really make this game semi-competitive. But I'm also really intrigued to see this defense. But I think overall, 27-17 is what I'm going to be given this game. And for my bold take, this is hard, because I don't think that we're going to be getting, if I look at the defensive side of the ball, I don't think we're getting sacks. Offensive side of the ball, it's going to be hard to kind of move it on these players, and I don't have full confidence that Justin's going to absolutely go off. I'll say this, 150 yards plus for DJ Moore. I think if they get active, DJ Moore is going to be the big receiver. And like I said, we got to go bold. I'm going to say DJ Moore over 150 yards as my bold prediction. Otherwise, partially Cole Kmet might be a sneaky player, because he seems to have good games against the Detroit Lions. But like I said, let me know down below what you think. But it's everyone's favorite time, everyone's favorite app, the Coin Flip app. this is what really matters here, because this will tell you what will happen during this game. Heads will mean Bears win. Tails will mean the Bears lose. And Lord knows, this thing loves to say tails. Let's see what it says. Tails again. I swear this thing is broken. I might need to get a new app. It always says tails, but it's saying the Bears lose. That's why it's been fairly accurate, unfortunately. But like I said, let me know down below. No matter what it is, I'm excited to see some football. I'm excited to see some Bears, and I'm excited to see QB1 back for the Bears. And I hope we're going to be celebrating a Chicago Bears victory come Sunday. But make sure to like and subscribe out there on YouTube. Also, rate the show 5 stars everywhere that you get your podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. And with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we are out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she